He didn't expect the knock at midnight. Marcus was halfway into a dream, something about flying over a city of glass, when the pounding began. Not a gentle tap, not even an urgent ring, but that kind of police knock that sends shivers down the spines of guilty and innocent alike. 3 heavy thuds. Then silence. Then 3 more. His heart jumped. For a second, he wondered if he had forgotten to pay a bill, if maybe the IRS had decided to hunt black men at night now. He pulled on a shirt and padded barefoot to the door, the chill of the hardwood floor grounding him in the unreality of it all. He opened it, and there they stood, 2 officers, flashlights in hand, posture tired but alert, and behind them her. Karen. Arms crossed, face red with fury and triumph. She wasn't blinking. She looked like she had just solved a federal crime and was waiting for her medal. Marcus blinked once, then twice. He tilted his head. "Officers," he said, voice rough from sleep and disbelief. The taller cop cleared his throat, glanced at a small notepad, and said in a monotone so bored it almost sounded sarcastic, "Sir, we've received a complaint about unauthorized hacking." Marcus looked between them, then at Karen, then back at them. "Come again." The cop gestured with the pad. "Your neighbor claims you've accessed her Wi-Fi and interfered with her internet connection." Karen stepped forward like a prosecutor presenting the case of her life. "He changed the password," she said, jabbing a finger toward Marcus like he was the spawn of Edward Snowden. "Yesterday. Out of nowhere. And now we don't have internet." Marcus stood silent for a full second. Then another. Then he laughed. Not a snicker. Not a chuckle. A full-bodied, incredulous laugh that echoed into the night air. Wait, he said, holding up his hands. "Let me get this straight. You're accusing me of hacking my own Wi-Fi?" Karen's eyes flared. "You cut us off. My son needs the internet for his homework." The cop looked at Marcus with tired eyes, like he'd rather be dealing with a drunk than this. "Sir, can you tell us what happened?" Marcus rubbed his temples. He hadn't had coffee. He hadn't had water. He was in his boxers. And now he was apparently the villain in the weirdest cybercrime drama of the year. "My internet was slow," he said slowly, as if speaking to aliens. "I checked my router. Found a bunch of unknown devices. So I changed the password. That's it. That's literally it." Karen gasped like he had confessed to murder. "Exactly. You blocked us without warning." One of the officers blinked slowly. "Ma'am," he said, not even bothering to hide the exasperation in his tone. "It's his network. He has every right to change the password." Karen's jaw dropped. Her face twisted into a storm cloud of righteous indignation. "No, you don't understand. This is a community. We share things here. That's how it works." Marcus barked a sharp laugh. "Your son screams into his gaming headset until 3 a.m. That's what I've been sharing." Karen clutched her chest like he'd slapped her. "How dare you?" The cops were done. You could see it in their body language. The younger one rubbed his eyes. "Sir, do you want to press charges?" Marcus tilted his head. "For what?" The cop shrugged. "Technically, using someone else's Wi-Fi without permission is theft." Karen's face paled. Marcus looked at her, then back at the cops. As tempting as it was to unleash legal hell, he was tired. "No, I just want to sleep." The cops nodded, visibly relieved. "Ma'am," one of them said, "you can't use your neighbor's Wi-Fi. If you're having connection issues, call your provider. Good night." Karen, still spluttering, pointed a trembling finger at Marcus. "This isn't over," she hissed. Marcus shut the door. "Oh," he muttered, "I know." He didn't sleep well. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how entitlement had evolved into this, how someone could believe they were owed something they never paid for. But Karen wasn't just entitled. She was confident. The kind of confidence that came from never being told no. The next morning, the first thing Marcus saw when he opened his front door was a mess of paper spilling from his mailbox. Notes. Angry notes. Handwritten, no less. One read, "Shame on you for destroying community spirit." Another said, "God sees what you did." A third was a fake petition titled, "Make Marcus give back the Wi-Fi," signed a dozen times in the same 3 handwritings. Marcus laughed, not out of amusement, but the kind of laugh you make when something is so stupid it might actually be dangerous. At the coffee shop, 2 elderly women whispered behind their cups when he walked by. At the grocery store, a father pulled his child away from Marcus like he carried a contagious virus. The mailman gave him a look that was equal parts pity and confusion. Karen had launched a whisper campaign, and people believed her. Somewhere between truth and fiction, in the fog of suburban paranoia, Marcus had become a digital criminal. All because he changed his password. All because his skin made the story easier to believe. He walked back into his house and sat on the couch, silent. He was raised to let things go, taught to pick battles wisely. But this felt different. This wasn't just gossip. It was erasure. It was white noise pretending to be community. It was being rewritten in the neighborhood narrative. He sipped coffee and stared at the ceiling. Then he opened his laptop. Something about it itched at him. A thought he hadn't quite caught yet. He logged into his router settings again. Just to double check. That's when he saw it. A device. Still connected. One he didn't recognize. It wasn't Karen's. And it wasn't his. He frowned. He had changed the password twice. No one should be able to access his network now. His pulse ticked up. He clicked deeper. The device was active. Not just streaming videos or scrolling TikTok. It was doing things. Logging into things. Accounts. Wallets. Data transfers. A chill ran up his spine. His heart thudded harder. The IP address was close. Too close. He traced the location. It pinged from Karen's house. Not near it. Inside it. His stomach dropped. Someone in that house wasn't just stealing his Wi-Fi. They were using it to cover their tracks. Marcus sat still, the screen lighting up his face like a campfire of secrets. He leaned forward, every muscle in his back tensing. This wasn't over. Karen thought she had won. But she'd opened a door she couldn't close. And something inside was festering. Something illegal. Something dangerous. Marcus didn't sleep that night. Not out of fear. Not out of anger. It was something deeper, more electric. The kind of insomnia that comes when a simple story cracks open, and you realize you're standing at the edge of something rotten. The moment he saw that unknown device still clinging to his network like a parasite, something shifted. He didn't just feel watched, he felt used. His house, his name, his internet, all being hijacked for something darker than freeloading. He stared at the IP log, the flickering trace lines, the timestamps. Whatever was happening inside Karen's house wasn't passive. It was surgical. Precision activity. Late-night logins. Data packets being rerouted. Account IDs. Encrypted tokens. Whoever was doing this wasn't just skimming Wi-Fi to watch Netflix. This was systematic. Coordinated. Like a shell game being played behind a white picket fence. So he set the trap. Not out of revenge. Out of necessity. He'd spent too long being the quiet neighbor, the one who smiled and waved and gave people the benefit of the doubt because it was easier than confrontation. But now someone was hiding behind his signal, and if they were caught, guess who'd be holding the bag? Marcus renamed the network to something innocuous, Free Public Net Guest. It was bait. He rerouted traffic through a virtual monitor. Not just to watch what they accessed, but how they moved. The fingerprints of a digital thief weren't just in what they touched, but in the way they did it. It took less than 10 minutes. Like clockwork, the phantom device reappeared. Connected instantly. No hesitation. No testing. Whoever it was, they had stored credentials. That meant they expected to be back. He watched, eyes unblinking, as the activity resumed. Streaming? No. Login portals. Username, password attempts. Personal data vaults. A cryptocurrency wallet. The name that flashed across his screen made his blood run cold. It was someone from 2 states over. A woman. A name he didn't recognize, but a quick search told him she had reported a hacked savings account just 2 weeks ago. Marcus leaned back. This wasn't just about his neighborhood anymore. Someone was running a digital heist operation from Karen's house. From his stolen Wi-Fi. From behind a layer of plausible whiteness. He printed everything. Logs. IP traces. Times. Names. Pages of proof. And then he did something he'd never done before in that neighborhood. He walked across the lawn and knocked on Karen's door. Not because he believed she'd help, but because he knew the confrontation would open something. The door cracked. Karen stood there with her usual scowl, bathrobe draped over her frame like some suburban judge. "Oh, look who it is," she sneered. "Come to apologize for your little stunt." Marcus didn't respond. He held up the stack of papers. Her eyes narrowed. "What's that?" "We need to talk," he said simply. Her laugh was short and cruel. "Did I park too close to your mailbox? Did my wind chimes offend you now?" He didn't blink. "Someone in your house is hacking accounts. And they're doing it through my network." That hit her like a slap. The smirk fell off her face. "What?" Marcus handed her the papers. She took them with a scoff, flipping through the first page like it was a joke. But by page 3, her fingers slowed. Her brow furrowed. By page 5, she wasn't scoffing anymore. This is ridiculous," she muttered. "I don't even know what half of this means." And that's when Marcus saw it. The flicker in her eyes. The pivot. She wasn't lying. Not fully. Which meant someone else. Her head turned. Toward the stairs. "Brad!" she shouted, voice sharp as broken glass. Marcus didn't have to imagine what was happening upstairs. He heard the hurried footsteps. The door slam. The soft thud of a laptop being closed too fast. A few seconds later, a tall, lanky teenager appeared at the top of the stairs, holding a silver laptop like it was a shield. Headphones still around his neck. Shirt inside out. "What?" he said, voice cracked. Karen thrust the papers toward him. "Explain this." Brad paled. I don't know what that is. Marcus says someone's been hacking through his Wi-Fi. That it's coming from our house. Brad swallowed hard. That's stupid. But his eyes weren't on the papers. They were locked on the front door. Marcus saw it. The calculation. The fear. The split-second math of whether he could run. Bradley, Karen said, voice low and shaking. Give me the laptop. No. No. He stepped back. It's mine. You can't just. But she was already moving. Like a lioness with rage and panic coiled around her spine. She snatched the laptop from his hands before he could blink. Hey! Brad shouted, chasing after her. Karen stormed down the stairs, gripping the laptop like it was a live grenade. She slammed it on the kitchen counter, opened it, and froze. The screen glowed with a dashboard of stolen credentials. Names. Passwords. Card numbers. A browser tab opened to a digital wallet showing balances in the thousands. Her mouth dropped open. Oh my God, she whispered. Marcus stepped closer. He didn't need to see the details. The guilt was already screaming from Brad's face. What have you been doing? Karen asked, voice barely audible. Brad didn't answer. You've been stealing money? He shook his head. No. I mean, not like that. It's just some of it. The crypto stuff. It's just numbers. It's not real. It's theft, she snapped. Do you know what happens if they trace this? You think I don't? Brad yelled. Why do you think I used his Wi-Fi? So it wouldn't come back here. Karen staggered backward like she'd been hit. Her hand flew to her mouth. And then, because she didn't know what else to do, she turned on Marcus. You brought this into my house. Marcus raised an eyebrow. I brought it. You knew what he was doing. You must have. You had access. Lady, Marcus said. 5 minutes ago you were ready to bake me cookies to make this go away. Now I'm the mastermind. Her voice cracked. We can fix this. We can just not tell anyone. Right? Marcus didn't respond. I'll pay you, she added. I'll bake. Whatever you want. I'm allergic to gluten, Marcus said flatly. And then the knock came. Not like the night before. This one was heavier. Authority packed into each pound. 3 knocks. Then a voice. Deep. Final. This is the FBI. We need to speak with Bradley Smith. Karen froze. Brad gasped. Marcus didn't say a word. The knock came again, harder. This is the FBI. We have a warrant. Karen turned to Brad. Go upstairs. Delete everything. Mom, Gio. They already know. Brad cried. She spun back to Marcus, eyes wild. You called them? No, he said, smiling coldly. I just stopped them from stealing through my house. She stared at him, panic rising. You think you're so smart. The door shook. Another voice. Mrs. Smith, we suggest you open up. Karen looked at the laptop. Then at Marcus. Then, in a move so absurd Marcus almost laughed, she grabbed the laptop and shoved it into his arms. Take it. It's yours. What? They can't find it here. You set this up. You just screamed delete everything 30 seconds ago. Shut up, she snapped. Brad, say he hacked you. Say it. Mom, stop, Brad whispered. Please stop. But she didn't. She ran. Not toward the door, but through the back. And then, before anyone could stop her, she hurled herself through the window. Marcus flinched. Glass shattered. Somewhere in the yard, something groaned. She landed in the garden gnomes, Brad muttered. The door burst open. Agents swarmed in. Guns drawn. Commands crisp. Within seconds, Brad was cuffed. Karen was still moaning on the grass, tangled in ceramic figurines. One agent looked at Marcus. You the one who reported the unauthorized access? Marcus nodded. Didn't expect it to end in lawn gnome homicide, but yeah. The agent chuckled almost. You may have saved a lot of people from losing everything. Marcus just watched. Karen was still yelling. He framed us. He's the hacker. He set it all up. The agents didn't even look at her. We've been tracking this activity for weeks, ma'am. We know exactly who did what. Brad sighed. Can we just go now? Karen wailed louder. But Marcus? He was already walking home. No longer the villain in someone else's fairy tale. Karen's house was quiet now. For the first time since Marcus had moved into the neighborhood, there was no yelling, no midnight stomping, no headset screams echoing through the drywall like distant battlefield commands. Just silence. Broken gnome pieces still littered her front lawn like casualties of a suburban war no one wanted to admit had happened. The window she dove through was boarded up hastily, a thin plywood patch over a deeper crack in the foundation, one not made of concrete but of denial, ego, and fear. Brad was gone. Hauled off in a black SUV, eyes low, mouth tight, laptop bag seized as evidence. The agents didn't linger. They weren't there to offer explanations. They came with questions, took what they needed, and left behind a house hollowed out by shock. Karen wasn't arrested. Not yet. Not for jumping through a window. Not for throwing evidence. Not for the cascade of lies that fell from her lips like broken beads on a string. But Marcus knew she wouldn't stay untouched forever. When federal agents get involved, loose ends don't stay loose. They become knots. Choke points. Karen had become one. And now, she was unraveling. That afternoon, Marcus watched through the blinds as she stumbled around her kitchen in a daze. Her movements were erratic, unfocused. At one point, she opened the fridge and stood there, unmoving, for 5 full minutes, staring into it like salvation might be hiding behind the mayonnaise. Then came the packing. At first, just 1 box. Then 2. Then a stack near the front door. Marcus didn't say anything. Didn't intervene. He wasn't sure if she was planning to leave, or just pretending to. Guilt did strange things to people. But it was when she came to his door again that he felt the loop tighten. It was almost dark. The air was thick with late summer heat, the kind that clings to your skin like accusation. He heard the knock, less urgent this time, almost hesitant, and when he opened the door, she was standing there with a tray of something vaguely cookie-shaped. "They're gluten-free," she said. "I checked twice." Marcus said nothing. She shifted on her feet. Her hair was unkempt, her voice no longer sharp but hollow, like something inside had collapsed and was still falling. "I wanted to make peace." Marcus leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "With cookies?" She nodded, smiling weakly. "I know I've overreacted. I was scared. You accused me of cybercrime. I thought," she stopped herself, corrected. "I assumed. Brad told me you had done something. I didn't understand it all. I was just trying to protect my family." Marcus's silence was sharper than anything he could have said. Karen pushed the tray forward slightly. "Can we just move past this? You tried to frame me," he said. "You screamed to your son to delete everything. You handed me a laptop filled with stolen accounts and said it was mine. And now you're here with cookies?" "I panicked," she said quickly. "You jumped through a window." "It was dramatic," she admitted. "But things got out of hand. I was trying to fix it." "No," Marcus replied. "You were trying to bury it. There's a difference." Karen looked down, lips pressed tight. "I'm leaving," she said finally. "Tomorrow. Running. Relocating," she said, with a hint of pride still stubborn in her tone. "It's for the best." Marcus studied her. There was no satisfaction in watching her crumble. No joy in seeing the self-proclaimed queen of the cul-de-sac reduced to a woman holding back tears in a porchlight glow. She wasn't the villain she thought she was. She was worse, someone who believed herself incapable of villainy. "You still think you're the victim," he said softly. Her eyes flicked up. "You think I wanted any of this? I think you wanted control. And when that broke, you shattered with it." Karen's shoulders sagged. She set the tray down on the porch rail and walked away. No goodbye. No apology. Just footsteps, slow and awkward, vanishing into the shadows. The next morning, the moving truck arrived. No help from neighbors. No casseroles, no sympathetic hugs. Just silence. As if the whole street had watched the truth explode and didn't know where to look anymore. The same people who whispered about Marcus being a hacker were now avoiding Karen like she'd gone feral. Reputation was fragile in this neighborhood. It could flip overnight. And flip it did. By noon, the house was empty. The truck rolled away. And Karen was gone. Marcus stood in his yard, watering the garden, watching the dust settle. The house next door looked smaller now, like some kind of pressure had been lifted from its walls. As he turned to go inside, a voice called out, "Hey!" Marcus looked up. George, his elderly neighbor 2 doors down, was standing at the edge of his lawn, cane in hand, eyes squinting beneath a visor. "Heard she moved," George said. Marcus nodded. "Yep." George stepped closer. "Guess that means you won." Marcus smiled faintly. "I didn't want to win. I just wanted to be left alone." George grunted in agreement. "Sometimes that's the hardest thing to ask for." They stood in silence a moment, 2 men separated by age, race, and history, but connected now by the strange collapse of the woman who once believed she could bend reality. "You're a good man, Marcus," George said at last. "Most people would have pressed charges. Burned it all down." Marcus shrugged. "That would have made me like her." George nodded again. "Well, I'm glad you stayed. The neighborhood's better for it." And with that, he turned and walked away. The street was quiet again. Not in the brittle, uncomfortable way it had been before, but a real quiet. Peaceful. Like the air had been scrubbed clean of something toxic. Marcus stepped inside and closed the door behind him. He powered up his laptop, connected to his own Wi-Fi, the one no one else could touch now, and took a deep breath. Not relief. Not victory. Just stillness. A sense that the loop had finally closed. That sometimes justice doesn't arrive with a gavel or a badge. Sometimes it's in the slow, quiet reclaiming of your own space. Your own voice. Your own name. 3 days passed before the neighborhood dared to breathe again. With Karen gone, the cul-de-sac felt suspended in a surreal calm, like the eerie silence after a long, bitter storm. The house next door remained untouched, its windows dark, its driveway empty, its blinds drawn as if ashamed to be seen. Marcus noticed things. How no one walked their dog past that house anymore. How joggers took a slightly wider arc, their eyes fixed straight ahead. How children no longer played in the front yard, as if the soil itself had absorbed something poisonous. He also noticed the change in how people looked at him. Not quite apology. Not quite relief. Something in between. George gave him a thumbs up every morning now. The mailman lingered slightly, sometimes offering a nod. The barista at the corner cafe spelled his name right on the cup for the first time in months. But Marcus didn't let it soften him. He knew the wind didn't change because people saw him differently. It changed because Karen had been louder, scarier, easier to blame, and now she was gone. The neighborhood needed a villain to exile, and they chose her, belatedly, conveniently. No one had apologized for the letters, the whispers, the petition. And Marcus didn't expect them to. Guilt in the suburbs was a private thing, worn behind smiles and good fences. Still, for the first time in a while, he slept through the night. And it was during one of those undisturbed mornings that the unexpected arrived. A plain white envelope. No return address. No stamp. Just slid under his door like a secret begging to stay hidden. He picked it up, turned it over, opened it. Inside were photographs. Printed on glossy paper, edge to edge. High-resolution shots of his router logs. Screenshots of his network dashboard. Names. Devices. Activity timestamps. And a note. Block letters. Handwritten. You should have stayed quiet. Marcus froze. His breath caught. He reread the note. There was no signature. No context. But the message was clear. Someone knew. Someone wasn't finished. A pulse of adrenaline spread through his chest like wildfire. He checked his doors. Windows. Security cams. All untouched. All fine. And yet something was off. This wasn't Karen. She was many things, loud, chaotic, performative. But this? This was methodical. Precise. There was no lipstick-stained sarcasm here. This wasn't about revenge. It was a warning. He powered up his laptop, fingers slightly trembling as he typed. He scanned his network again. No unknown devices. No anomalies. Everything clean. But that only made the envelope more sinister. Someone had been in his system, gathered these images, and gotten out without a trace. Which meant they were better than Brad. More careful. Or someone Brad had worked with. The idea wrapped itself around his thoughts like barbed wire. Brad wasn't a mastermind. The kid was arrogant, yes, but sloppy. What if he hadn't been acting alone? What if Karen's house was just a node in something larger, a shadow network hiding behind suburban Wi-Fi signals? Marcus stared at the photos again. One image had been circled in red ink. An IP address he didn't recognize. He cross-checked it. It wasn't local. It was out of state. But the access had occurred a week ago, before the FBI took Brad. Which meant someone else had logged in. Someone the FBI hadn't caught. He needed help. Not from the police. Not even the agents. No, this needed someone who spoke the same digital language. He made a few calls. Sent encrypted messages. Pulled a favor from an old college friend who now worked in network security. Within hours, he had a new firewall installed, a decoy signal running, and a tracking protocol embedded in a honeypot system. If anyone tried to access his network again, he'd see them coming before they even clicked connect. But days passed. Nothing. No breach. No new letters. Just silence. The kind of silence that wasn't peaceful, but patient. Something was waiting. It was Thursday evening when the first blip appeared. A small packet request. Innocent enough. Buried under routine traffic. But Marcus caught it. And he followed it. The trace led him somewhere strange. Not a residential address. Not a proxy server. A community center. 3 towns over. A shared network, likely open to anyone. Smart. Disguised as background noise. He flagged the activity, logged the session ID, and waited. Another blip. Different IP, same pattern. This time from a Starbucks. Then another. Public library. Every ping was an echo, a breadcrumb on a path someone didn't want followed. But Marcus followed it anyway. He spent his nights watching the pattern build, like puzzle pieces assembling themselves out of the dark. The device changed names, IDs, even MAC addresses, but the behavior remained the same. The thief was back. And smarter. But not smarter than him. The final clue came from a mistake. A single login attempt that bypassed the decoy and tried accessing his real network. The system flagged it. Location, a nearby high school. Marcus frowned. It wasn't Brad. He was already facing charges. So who else? He cross-referenced the device signature with old logs. There it was. A match. Weeks ago. Same device had accessed his network under the alias parent_access_admin. That wasn't a gamer. That was someone older. Possibly a staff member. Maybe even someone who'd taught Brad the tricks. Marcus stared at the screen, the name dancing like a ghost. He had come full circle. This wasn't about Karen anymore. Or even Brad. This was something systemic. A chain of users exploiting small windows of vulnerability. Using each other. Discarding each other. And he'd pulled the curtain back. But the question remained, what now? He couldn't confront someone he couldn't see. Couldn't accuse someone with just breadcrumbs. The FBI had what they needed on Brad. But this? This was bigger. He sat in the dark, screen light painting his face in sharp edges. And then he made a decision. Not fear. Not retaliation. Strategy. He gathered every log, every ping, every trace route. Compiled a report. And mailed it. Not to the FBI. Not yet. But to a journalist he knew who specialized in cybercrime. Someone who'd exposed government leaks and lived to tell about it. He sent it with no name. No explanation. Just one line typed at the top. It started with a password. Then he waited. The article dropped 5 days later. No warning. No email back. Just a headline on the homepage of a cyber investigative news site known for unraveling complex digital fraud rings and government leaks. The suburban Wi-Fi network that hid a multi-state identity theft operation. Underneath the title was a stylized image of a router, surrounded by silhouettes of faceless users. The piece didn't name Marcus, didn't reveal Karen or Brad, or even the town. But the details were unmistakable to anyone close enough. It told the story of a quiet neighborhood where a simple change in a Wi-Fi password exposed a layered operation, one that had hidden beneath layers of public networks, stolen logins, cryptocurrency wallets, and naive freeloaders. It hinted at the unresolved threat, that someone else, someone more experienced, had been directing parts of the scheme from the shadows. That detail wasn't in any FBI report. That had come from Marcus's logs. The article went viral. Not in the TikTok dance sense of the word, but in the unsettling, slow-spreading way that made institutions twitch. Forums buzzed. Reddit threads dissected the breadcrumbs. Anonymous users claimed to know more. Some dismissed it as conspiracy bait, but the people who knew better, the ones watching the cracks in the system, recognized the patterns. A week after the article dropped, Marcus received a call from a blocked number. He let it go to voicemail, then listened. A woman's voice. Firm. Professional. Mr. Marcus Rayner, this is Special Agent Keene with the Federal Cybercrime Division. We've read the file you sent anonymously. We'd like to meet. No threat. No pressure. Just a request. An open door. Marcus stared at his phone for a long moment. Then he called back. The meeting happened in a quiet field office 2 counties away. Not a courtroom. Not a dimly lit interrogation room. Just a plain table, 2 chairs, a pot of coffee, and a woman in her late 30s wearing a government badge and a look that suggested she hadn't been surprised by anything since 2014. Agent Keene didn't waste time. You didn't have to go to the press, she said, sipping from a chipped mug. I know, Marcus replied. But I had to make sure someone paid attention. She nodded. Fair. You uncovered something we missed. Something bigger than a teenager with bad judgment and access to stolen code. Marcus handed her a new folder, an update. New traces. New IPs. One even connected to a device in a courthouse, of all places. This network is decentralized, he said. It's not just Brad. He was a puppet. He didn't even write the scripts he used. They were downloaded. Modified. Distributed. Agent Keene listened without interruption, her pen moving rapidly across a yellow notepad. And the user? She asked. The one hiding behind public networks? Still active, Marcus said. Still careful. But slipping. Think they know you're watching? They knew before I did. That made her pause. Meaning? Marcus reached into his bag, pulled out the original photographs from the envelope. Someone printed these. Dropped them at my door. They wanted me to back off. Keene studied them in silence. But you didn't. I couldn't, Marcus said. You know what scared me most? It wasn't the tech. Wasn't the risk. It was how easy it was for someone like Brad to become invisible. For someone like Karen to weaponize ignorance and nearly ruin me. And for the real danger to stay hidden in plain sight. Keene closed the folder and stood. We'll need you. Maybe not officially. But this investigation is going deep. We've reopened several dormant cases tied to this signature. Whatever you're seeing, it's just the beginning. Marcus left the office with a strange feeling in his chest. Not pride. Not fear. Just clarity. The fog had lifted. He drove home under a sky that felt sharper somehow, the light colder. When he turned onto his street, something felt different. Not wrong. Not ominous. Just observed. He parked and walked up the path to his door. And then he saw it. Another envelope. This one smaller. Taped to his front door like a message nailed to a church. He peeled it off, opened it carefully. One line. Handwritten. Different ink. Different hand. You don't know what you've started. No signature. No stamp. Just that. He stepped inside, locked the door, and checked every feed from his security cameras. Nothing. No one. He sat in the kitchen, the envelope on the table, his laptop glowing beside it. Whoever it was, they knew he'd escalated. And now, it wasn't just a story anymore. It was war. Over the next week, Marcus doubled his defenses. Changed hardware. Isolated his network. Installed motion sensors. created offline backups. Every tool he once used to protect corporate systems, he now turned inward on his own home. Friends started asking if he was paranoid, if maybe he was taking this too far. But they hadn't been accused of being a criminal for protecting themselves. They hadn't been watched, used, nearly framed. One afternoon, he got a call from a number he didn't recognize, but something told him to answer. A soft voice on the line. Nervous. Young. Is this Marcus? Speaking. You don't know me. My name is Theo. I used to know Brad. Online. We played games together. Shared files. A lot of us did. Marcus's chest tightened. Go on. He didn't start this, Theo said. He was recruited. Just a pawn. They called themselves the Quiet Net. Said it was all harmless. Just info swapping. Sharing passwords. But then it turned into scraping bank logins. Selling access. They threatened anyone who wanted out. Do you know who runs it? No, Theo said. But I think they're watching me now. My webcam light comes on by itself. My parents think I'm imagining things, but I'm not. Send me your logs, Marcus said. Right now. Encrypt them. I'll send you a key. I shouldn't be calling, Theo whispered. But I read the article. I knew it had to be you. The call dropped. Marcus stared at the dead line. Then the email came. Logs. Chats. Scamshots. One of them caught his eye immediately. A chat thread with Brad. Old, timestamped months before the FBI got involved. Brad. They said if I don't find more entry points, they'll lock me out. They're serious. Unknown user _014. Your neighbor. Use him. His network's clean. No heat. Brad. He's a good guy. Unknown user _014. That's why he's perfect. Quiet. Invisible. The rage that hit Marcus wasn't loud. It was quiet. Cold. Precise. They hadn't just used him. They'd chosen him because of how forgettable he was in their eyes. How convenient. How disposable. He forwarded everything to Keen. Then he picked up his phone and called George. You still know anyone at City Hall? George laughed. You need a permit or a secret file? Neither, Marcus said. I need a meeting. About digital infrastructure. About security. And about neighbors who need to stop being invisible. George whistled low. About time, son. That night, Marcus sat at his desk, watching a live map of network traces light up across the country like wildfire sparks. The war wasn't over. It had barely begun. But this time, he wasn't just reacting. He was building something. A signal. A firewall. A movement. All of it. Started with a password. Ended with a reckoning.